Hello，欢迎来到异想直播间。本场直播的主题是 BioChina 2026国际论坛拉美市场。Hey everyone, welcome to today's webinar hosted by BioChina. Today's webinar topic is Latin America market.
So hello, good morning to you all. So my name is Cristiano, so I'll be moderating the panel today. So thank you for the invitation and also for this opportunity to come here. I think most of us, it's the first time that we are coming here to the BioChina, and we are very excited and very impressed about the opportunities that we have here. And I think the main purpose of this panel is to track these opportunities and then bring those to the LATAM market. And then when we are facing that type of change in terms of cultures and countries, we know that there is a lot of things that we need to learn and to have like a soft landing about the technologies coming in Brazil or even in Latam and understand the whole market. So the main purpose of this meeting is to discuss a little bit about that. So collaboration opportunities with Brazilian companies, Latin companies. So what is the legal framework that we have behind that favors technologies abroad to come in Brazil related to the clinical trials, commercialization, market aspects, and so on. So thank you for that. But before introducing myself, so I will let the team to introduce themselves as well for you to know more about the companies, and then we can go for all the topics that we prepare to share with you today. So let's start with maybe Lisa.
Okay. Hanshan Hao, good morning. My name is Lisa. It's a pleasure to be back to Suzhou. I was here in 2019 exploring this wonderful city. I'm a passionate logistics professional for clinical trial for the last 25 years. Super excited to be here and be able to discuss how Brazil and Latin America can open doors in terms of importing, receiving all the products that you are producing and supporting customers in our region. Thanks for having me this morning. Thank you, Christian, as well.
Thank you. Paulo?
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation to join the panel. I'm Paulo Fernandes. I'm currently the Chief Operating Officer for Azidos. Azidos is a Brazilian CRO with integrated offering as a clinical research organization and also a clinical research site. I've been particularly myself working with Chinese companies for the past 5 years, worked with a few of them, helping them with their bridging studies and also adding sites to global trials taking place, including not only Brazil, but Latin America. I'm really happy to be here with you and to have the opportunity to do some exchanging of practices and what we think is important for the soft landing of Chinese companies into the country.
Thank you, Paulo. Dr. Sonej?
Myself, Dr. Soneji, I represent a Chinese company. Company's name is Gananli Pharmaceutical, which is a Beijing-based company. We are specialized in the biomanufacturing of insulins and innovative drugs. We have quite good presence in the Latin American market. We also run public-private programs which we have recently successfully done. And as a part of my job profile, I take care of the US, Europe market for our insulin products, as well as I am also responsible for promotion of our innovative drugs into the emerging market. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm Cristiano, so I'm the Innovation Technology License Director at Butantan. Butantan Institute is the main provider of vaccines and immunotherapeutics to the Ministry of Health in Brazil. And this is a very interesting aspect. So the Health Unified System in Brazil is the largest buyer of medicines in the world, because the public health system in Brazil is for free for the citizen, and the Ministry of Health provides the medicines to the whole population that needs these medicines. So, and one interesting aspect of that is that the product that comes to Brazil must be like very cost effective in terms of not only in Brazil, but Latin America as well. So we have PAHO, which is a branch of the World Health Organization as well, that also provide medicines to the Brazilian region and also Latin America. And when we talk about reaching to Latin market, so cost is the main driver of the market. But not only cost, but the companies take advantage of reducing the cost, but increase the volume, because when we talk about medicines in Brazil for the public health system, so the volume that the Ministry of Health procured, because it reached the whole population, is very high. So I will give an example at Butantan. So during the COVID, so we reached many other countries around the world to support us in developing a vaccine for COVID-19. And the one that replies Butantan in the fastest way was Sinovac here in China. So we were discussing with them at the time to bring a clinical trials in Brazil and then continue the development. They were at the time in phase 2 clinical trials. So Butantan was in charge together with Sinovac to go ahead and perform the phase 3 clinical trial, more than 13,000 people. And this was the pivotal study that grants not only Brazil and Butantan, but Sinovac the market access around the world, because data that has been generated in Anvisa follows the same guidelines as FDA and EMA, and it's a very strict agency, Anvisa. So this is one of the aspects that we would like to touch base today. So performing clinical trials and co-development with local companies to leverage technology and bring that to Brazil. But also the technology transfer. This is a legal framework in Brazil that supports and favors companies that is prone to develop partnerships with local companies and are able to do full technology transfer, because different from China and other European countries, so we don't have a lot of capabilities in terms of API and drug substance manufacturing in Brazil. So the government is providing advantage to companies that want to reach the market and engage with local companies in counterpart of 10 years commitment of the Ministry of Health to buy this technology for the same company. So what happened is the Ministry of Health has this legal framework. For every medicine that the Ministry of Health in Brazil would like to buy, they open a tender. So there is a competition which reduces the price of the medicine, and who has the lowest price won the bid, and they supply to the Ministry of Health. So every year the Ministry of Health do like that. So the Ministry of Health, since it's the most buyer of the medicine, they have the idea of, so what about if I give the company 10 years tender supply, like for the same company, in charge of those companies providing a technology transfer, full technology transfer to a local company. This is to leverage the capabilities in Brazil. So most of the companies that the Brazilian companies discussing here in China and other countries is focused on partnerships and clinical development, but also technology transfer. And when we talk about that, especially in clinical trials and commercialization, logistics is the main issue, because the distance is very far, so the specificity for each country is very complex. So Brazil has, and Latin America has different kind of regulation and specificities. So I will open the mic here to Lisa to comment a little bit about how it's important for an international company, such as in China or in Asia, elsewhere, to bring technologies in Brazil, both like during clinical development, but also in the commercial stage, to then reach the Brazilian market and talk a little bit more about logistics. So maybe, Lisa, you can comment and support us about that.
Yes, thanks. After you register your product, you need to circulate the product into the country. How you're going to do that? Having a trusted partner with correct cold chains, following the GXP, everything that you need to make sure that your drug is going to be at the hospital, at the customer, at the right time with quality. So Faxi Group is a company that can support the 3 stages. Early development with importation of equipment and all the laboratory materials that you may need for the research. The clinical phase, when you need to distribute, import, store all the products into the country and the region. And later, after the registration that you need to commercialize, we do have the cold chambers to support you with the distribution. Sometimes I hear that working with Brazil could be a nightmare. It is a nightmare if you don't trust with the right partner, if you don't establish a right communication, because we know in the region how to deal with the bureaucracy and how to make the timeline shorter. So please, when you need to talk to Brazilian market, rely on the right person the local one. I think communication with the Minister of Health, talking about fiscal, documentation that you need, importation, let's do right for the first time. So one of the messages that I wanted to transmit here this morning is to rely on the local partners. We love what we do, and we are here to support. Let's make the distances shorter and the timeline shorter as well. So, for example, when you're talking about cell therapy, gene therapy, liquid nitrogen temperature, ultra-low temperatures, is not hard. Anvisa, our Minister of Health, has special ways to make these samples to arrive faster and the treatment to arrive faster to the patient, having customs clearance very fast. We know that radiopharmaceutical products are also here in the market. We are also prepared to help you. So there's no hard things for us. We just need to be in front of you and understand your program, your project, so we can align in advance, involve all the partners that we need to involve, and do right for the first time. So logistics is important, registration is important, but the patient is more important than everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And talking about that, so logistics, it's one of the main concern when you are bringing technologies to Brazil. But something that we hear many times when we engage with companies outside Brazil is how hard it is to have approve clinical trials in Brazil by Anvisa, or how hard is Anvisa to approve a medicine which was generated data beyond Brazil. So we heard that many times. And something that the legal framework in Brazil, together with the public policies, is changing is that let's leverage the clinical development environment in Brazil. So we mostly receive in the past phase 3 clinical trial, later stage clinical trial, but the local regulation is trying to make Brazil as like the right environment to bring technologies at early stage as well. So, and when you talk about early stage, speed is very important. So Anvisa, together with the public health system in Brazil, is designing new policies and new regulamentations to expedite the time for you when you go ahead and design a clinical trial and apply it to Brazil as a clinical site. So I would like to hear Paulo a little bit about how is the advantage about bringing these clinical trials in Brazil. We know that the genetic diversity of Brazil, of the people in Brazil, is very huge. So this can also leverage the data when the study is being conducted in Brazil. But let's hear a little bit about Paulo about that.
Okay, well, thank you for the question. Clinical research is hard, right? It's not a simple thing. We are talking about challenging new medicines, new devices into human beings. And to do so, we need to do in the safest possible way, always with the look at what's going to come next in the future and about how we can do it, respecting the individuality of the patient, its well-being. Having said that, I really believe there are facts and myths about each of the countries around the globe. One myth about Brazil is that it's too hard. It's not too hard. All of the countries with which I worked for and I worked for big CROs in the past, now I work in a local company, had their own characteristics that needed to be respected, their own bureaucracy, and all of that's very important to be followed. So having the right and local partner, it's always important. When people tell me, you know what, Paulo, my country is not easy, but if you come with me, I'm going to navigate you through that. These type of people, they really gain my respect because they're not telling me that it is going to be easy. They are telling me that they know what to do. So about the advantages of doing clinical research in Brazil, Brazil is very well known by compressing enrollment timelines for global programs. And that's the truth. Brazil is a 200 million people country with a huge area and with the ability to have patients and potential study participants to nearly all of the indications that are really that really matter right now, right? Neglected diseases, you have there. Oncology, unfortunately, we have there. So we have patients to all types of studies. Compressing timelines, especially about enrollment, it's very important because in the end of the day, who is taking the risk to develop a new drug needs to have a line of sight about when the returns are going to come, or when they will be able to tell, okay, this asset, it doesn't work anymore, it doesn't fit, that's not going to progress. So compressing enrollment timelines is definitely a very good thing that Brazil can offer with a diversified population, right? So the diversity mandate, although under discussion from a political standpoint, it's the truth, guys. We really need to be able to generalize data. And if we do so, and if we do so by design, not only with bridging studies, the company I work for, we do that, but why not taking into account having sites in Brazil from the beginning? Brazil is the entry door for Latin America. And a myth, another one about Brazil, is that Brazil is a country with a lengthy process. That's not true, and that's not true anymore. I think we are gonna talk about it in a couple of minutes, but we do have a very competitive regulatory time frame to have studies approved. So as long as you do it with the right partner, you will be able to navigate through that, and you are going to get your participants, you are going to fulfill your diversity mandates, and in the end of the day, even shorten a little bit your timelines. So particularly, I think Brazil is a very competitive country compared to several others around the globe that sometimes we direct our efforts just because we don't know Brazil. And one of the reasons we are here talking about the country with you guys.
Thank you, Paulo. So yeah, we touch in many aspects until now, right? So we talk about logistics. So if a company here in China would like to bring clinical trials in Brazil, so the investigational product, but also the commercial product, our suggestion here is that please find a local partner that knows all the regulation permits, because it's very complex, and there is like you don't need to struggle about that, but find a good partner in Brazil to go ahead. And another aspect is that when you're looking for that, so please find a local partner not only to support the logistics, but also to support you during the co-development as well. So we have a lot of companies, private companies and public companies that is open to engage and have partnerships with you as well. And talking more about that, so we talk about this PDP program, which gives to the company 10 years commitment of supply for the same company in charge of the technology transfer. So Gang Li has a good experience on that. So they recent won one of this call for the PDP for the insulin production. So I opened the mic to Dr. Sonet to discuss a little bit about his experience and his company experience about bringing and engaging with companies in Brazil and performing those type of arrangements, which involves also technology transfer.
Thank you, Cristiano. Thank you for addressing this PDP program, which is a really successful project for Ganali. But let me take you a couple of minutes on addressing the entire Latin American situation. So I widely agree with all of you guys. The Brazil entry is not complex, not difficult, but it's a challenging. Challenging in the sense that you need the first thing is between Brazil, Mexico, Argentina, Colombia, and entire Latin American region. Because of the genetic diversity, there is always a need of better clinical safety and efficacy data. There are certain regions in the global, like Latin America, Russia, and India. So these are the countries where globally you also need a clinical trial data because of the genetic diversity. So Brazil and some of the Latin American countries are complex because of the genetic diversity. Why we need a clinical data? Because we need to prove a safety and efficacy in those genetic diversified countries. As a Ganali, we have been in the market, in the Latin American market for more than 10 years. We started entering into the market for our insulins, where we partnered with our current partner with whom we did a kind of B2B partnership, where we also helped them to conduct the local clinical studies because of the genetic diversity. And then talking about the PDP program in Brazil, actually this program was introduced by Brazil government in 2008. But because of the lot of complexity and differentiation in the objective of the program, change in the governance, different visions between the partner, the participating agencies like public institutions, the program was not completely implemented, and there was a lot of challenges for the investment as well from the government side. And then in 2019, COVID-19 hit, and Brazil government at that time wanted to have a localization, not only the final product, but they also wanted to have a complete tech transfer, means from cell line to upstream to downstream and everything, so that they can have a continuous supply of the really critical care medications. So in 2023, they again reformed all those PDP program structures. And in 2025, they have successfully completed around 25 projects of this PDP program, which involves around 42 billion rubles of the investment from the government side. And in this PDP program, it involves the participation from the private company who is doing the technology transfer. Then there is a funding from the government, which is administered by Ministry of Health in Brazil, and also there is a participation from the local player as well as the public institution. So all these four agencies are going to the patient for the Brazil market to give a better solution for the critical care, with a common objective to bring medicines at an affordable price and have a consistent supply. So as a currently we were able to do that. Now we have a contract with the government for almost 10 years. And we have commitments from the government to fulfill our commitments, and we also are committed to Brazil government to fulfill our commitments to them. Yeah. And in terms of the Mexico market, again the same situation, because of the genetic diversity. We are in the market for more than 10 years. We also did local studies there, but Mexico government is moreover into complete healthcare insurance system, where there are different agencies like Minister, IMSS, and those agencies who runs the insurance program for different people, common people, government employees, and all those. So they also go for public procurement system similar to VBP in China. And this is how they manage the entire flow of the medicines into the insurance structure. And similarly, the situation with a couple of more countries in the Latin American region. Yeah.
Yeah, so we are talking about Brazil, but the same challenges that Brazil faces, the Latin market also faces. So we lack capabilities in industrial production, we lack capabilities in terms of innovation, and we are not the first choice of performing clinical trials locally. So those are the main challenges when you talk about biotechnology and bring innovative products. So, and when you talk about the PDP program, so they fill one of the gaps in terms of the manufacturing process. But this is very interesting. So our company at Butantan, so we have more than 4 PDPs and 4 new products as well. So we just signed an agreement with Pfizer for the RSV vaccine, and they will transfer the full technology to Butantan as well, monoclonal antibodies as well. So this is support the companies to first learn how to manufacture, and then trying to risk some of the aspects in terms of the clinical development. So you know how to produce, now you need to learn how to design a protocol and go ahead and run clinical trials in Brazil. So, and talking about that, so as I mentioned, Brazil in the past was not the first choice for the companies to bring clinical trials in Brazil at early stage. But now things are changing with this new regulation. So I would like to hear from Paulo a little bit about that. So what is his expectation in terms of this new regulation in Brazil, and also talk about the specificity about timing of the approval of the ethical committee. So what the companies must know in terms of their journey to apply for clinical trials in Brazil, and what they can have in terms of the advantage for bringing clinical trials locally.
Okay, well, very interesting question indeed. So Brazil recently implemented a new regulatory framework for clinical research. by recognizing that innovation is very important for the country, and that not only the policy associated to bringing in new products and supporting the companies to learn how to produce them, but to improve the environment for these products to be tested there. So, few things about Brazil that are very interesting right now since 2024. Brazil is a country in which you can get a site activated within 5 months. This is really competitive and impressive when comparing to other markets around the globe. So we are as much as competitive as Canada, France, and other countries, which makes us not only a go-to location in terms of enrollment, but also regulatory. Another important aspect, you can do your work with the regulatory authority, the approval work, in parallel to the ethical submission work. So you don't lose time. Once you are able to get started with your submission into the regulatory authority, you can also get started with the ethical submission process. Evaluations are different. The regulatory authority, they are looking at sanitary conditions, production, all of the conditions for that product to be actually approved and registered in the future. And the ethical portion is related to safety and well-being of participants. The process with the regulatory authority, it takes up to 90 business days mandated by law. So the regulatory authority, Anvisa, they are responsible for assessing your submission, your application, and if they do not provide you a response, there is an automated mechanism for tacit approval. This is really good because actually you can get started with your clinical trial as long as it gets approved by the ethics committee. The ethical part of it, right now in Brazil, you need to submit to only one ethics committee, which is going to be responsible for providing a response that is applicable to all the others. They can take up to 90 days, so the timelines for ethical submission and approval, they are shorter than the timelines for the approval of the regulatory authority, meaning that this is not your critical path to get a trial approved into the country. And finally, you can start with importing before. So Lisa is going to talk about it, and I'm not going to touch this point specifically. But general rule here, or general message, is that Brazil is not a lengthy country anymore. That's a myth. We need to navigate through that. It has its own characteristics, but the local environment, the ecosystem, with the support of the government and of the new research law, puts Brazil in a very interesting position to become a country that's not only added to global large phase 3 trials, but also in which you can do your strategy from the beginning, right?
Thank you, Paulo. And before Lisa, so Lisa, if you'd like to compliment Paulo and also mention, because we are seeing here the event, a lot of new technologies going on, right? So we are seeing the in vivo CAR-T, mRNA, so a lot of technologies, new technologies that we are kind of, until now, uncertain about the logistics, because it's something new that we need to start going on and commercialize that to see how we're going to face the challenges about distance and also the local region of LATAM market. But we'd like to hear Lisa to complement also the terms of the logistics that Paulo mentioned, also those new technologies that's coming now.
Exactly. We love Chinese speed. So because of that, Paulo said that the regulatory aspect could be in parallel of the ethics, and also you can bring the products before the approval of the clinical trial. So the products can be imported into the country, can be inside the warehouse. Once the letter is issued and the sites can start the trial, we just need to ship in 24 hours the product to the clinical sites, which makes sense because now Brazil, we are super excited to be here to talk about this new regulation that will facilitate the flow, including of the drugs, because in the past, the trial was approved and we took more than 1 month to get the products in country, so then we needed to dispatch the patients. And most of the time, we were losing the time frame. But right now, it's different. We can do the three things in parallel: regulatory, ethics, and also bringing the products into country and just release them to the hospitals, to the patients, once the trial is approved. Which make us very excited to be able to support Chinese companies to go faster to Brazil.
Thank you, Lisa. And talk about innovation. So we are seeing this landscape changing that much in terms of biotechnology and new products as well. So I would like to hear from Dr. Soneji a little bit about what is his future perspectives and what is coming on, and with this experience in the Brazil regulation. So what the company is looking ahead. So just to give an example, that when we design a partnership with companies such as in Asia, China, so we would like to have a long-term partnership, not only with a single product, but going beyond other products as well. So we would like to hear from you the perspectives for new technologies and new products involving not only partnerships in Brazil, but also you seeing the environment of the ecosystem in Brazil, how this is important for the company to strategically decide to come there.
Thank you for bringing this. From the partnership perspective, as a Chinese company or any Asian company who are innovative drugs maker, for them, the biggest dream is to go for US and Europe market. But Latin American market is also a decent piece of, a portion of revenue which they can generate from. As an innovative drug promoter to the Latin American market, the first choice you need to see is the selection of partner, whether the therapeutic areas which you are making a new drug and the therapeutic areas where they are promoting the drug, whether it matches your objective. Then second part is the commitment to the partnership, where you need to have each and every role and responsibility assigned with the partner, that what is your expectation from the partner and what is partner's expectation from your side. Once you enter into that, you need to assign the main essence, like what you want to do in the market. For example, if it is Latin American market, as I mentioned, due to genetic diversity, you need to run a clinical trial program. So the partner should be sufficient enough for the investment and time. So when it comes to the investment, you may have to run multiple clinical studies in the Latin American market. So all those are key factors which decides the selection of the partner. At the moment, what we did in our company is we have a lot of projects in the innovation side. One of the example I would take is recently we signed a deal with a Mexican partner who has a presence across Latin American market for our GLP-1 product, which is for diabetes and weight loss. And the partner has a very good presence in the entire region. They are also willing to invest to have a multi-center studies within Latin American market. So they are planning clinical studies in Brazil, Mexico, Colombia. And once they have the clinical studies in these three countries, it will leverage them to enter into the other Latin American market. Currently, in Latin America, Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina almost covers like 80% of the market by revenue and market by size. So this will give us, as a partnership, this will give us both the partners a leverage to enter into the market, while we have still ongoing clinical trials in US and Europe. But our objective is to launch our product in the Latin American market with the same timeline with the Chinese market. So our filings, our approvals and everything will be in the similar timeline like China market and Latin American market, while US and Europe will still take some time because of the complexity and diversified clinical trials. So our objective is, although US and Europe is a big market, but emerging market is also a quite decent portion of the market. So our objective was to enter into emerging market as well as US market, but we want to take a major share from the emerging market as well. So this is kind of model we adapted. So we in parallel, we also partnered with Indian company. They are also running parallel clinical trials with our Chinese clinical trials. So we will be able to launch in these countries with the genetic diversity to run the clinical trials, and in the similar time frame we'll launch the product, and in couple of years later we will be able to finish clinical trials in US and Europe, and then we will be able to launch in that market as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And before we move to the questions, I will ask them to, all of them to, maybe if they were in a closed door with one of the Chinese company or Asian company, so what's going to be the advice you will give to them to come to Brazil and bring your technologies to Brazil? So if you have to select one of the biggest advice, so how it will be? So I will do myself. So I think Brazil is an amazing country. So the market is huge. So because of our public health system is one of the biggest around the world. But not only about that, but also for you to give a chance to visit our country, which is a beautiful country. And Brazilians are a very nice people. So it's an opportunity for you to not only bring your technology to Brazil, but also bring your people to know more and live our culture as well. But anyway, so Lisa, if you could give this advice to the local companies to engage with the Brazilian ecosystem, how it will be?
First of all, I think, of course, language could be a barrier, but we love to talk to you through the open cameras, through the sessions, video internet sessions. So open your camera, share your priorities with us, let's establish a clear communication about your targets and goals, and let's make it happen. So I would say, open camera, clear communication, talk about what is needed and important for you to achieve, so together we are going to chase those results.
Thank you.
Well, it's very easy to start doing business by saying words such as, let's build a partnership, let's celebrate an alliance, and things as such. But to actually do it and to make sure that these are not only words, we need to build trust, and trust is built based on transparency. So if we can reduce a little bit our own blockages and barriers and listen to each other, it's going to be much easier to build trust. And with that trust, we will be able to navigate through the challenging times and also through the good times together, and to achieve the expected results. So building trust is the most important thing, and I think it's something that we really need to have in mind when engaging for the first time.
Thank you, Paulo. Please.
Yeah, again on the business collaboration front, again, as I mentioned earlier, when you want to enter into the partnership, the clear objective and expectation from both the partners is important. Then there is a life cycle of business development or market entry. So you enter into a partnership, you sign agreement with your business terms, then you start sharing your dossiers. There is a regulatory challenge. You have to have a regulatory submission. Then you need to prepare a lot of things before filing your dossier. Then during the life cycle of the registration, you may expect some deficiencies or queries from the ministry. On that front, you need to align with the partner. Then once you enter into the market, you have marketing challenges. And by the time you have an approval, a lot of things change in the market. So you need to adapt to the new situation, take the opportunities. Again, localization is one of the key factor because every government now wants to have a localization because of the latest COVID-19 hit. So all those things are very key parameters from the business perspective. That first thing is a dedication to the partnership. Second is a commitment to the society for delivering your medicines. And third one is finally being human. So you need to take care of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And just to add what they are commenting, so since the Butantan or the Brazilian government knows the deficiencies and also our weakness in terms of production and innovation, so the new policies that the Ministry of Health is designing is favoring, giving preference to the companies that would like to have a localization of the products in Brazil, but also would like to run clinical trials together with a local company in Brazil. So in future, they will have preference to be the main supplier to the Ministry of Health. So this is give you an advantage about reaching the market first and also being a preferred market supplying medicines to the public health system in Brazil. But anyway, so we have 10 minutes, so let's open to questions and then to contribute to the discussion right now. So if somebody has some questions, so please raise the hands and then we can discuss here.
Thank you for all the panelists providing the valuable insights. So I'm a BD from a local CDMO. So based on the conversation here, it seems that for Brazil, it looks like your country prefers the local manufacturing, the technical transfer, etc. So I'm just wondering, are there any opportunities for the out-border CDMOs, especially for the antibodies or cell and gene therapy? Thank you.
Excellent question. So you touched it very well. So as we lack some of the capabilities for innovation and development, so we don't have at least local in Brazil, even CROs that can run non-clinical trials following the toxicology guidelines that Anvisa and FDA requires. But we also don't have capabilities to generate, for example, cell line development. So having all the tests being done in a cell line. So we need to rely on companies outside Brazil. So what we are doing right now, so we are diversifying the alternatives that we have for companies to support us, the cell line development, qualification of cell line, qualification of a virus, for example, and also monoclonal antibodies. So as in Butantan, so we know that this is the main gap for even us to start phase 1 clinical trial. We need to have those materials, right? So then we can rely on companies outside Brazil. So this is a good example that I will bring to you. Like in our portfolio at Butantan, we have 2 monoclonal antibodies that we are developing for infectious disease. So we have the sequence. So we have the research cell bank, but we don't have the cell line for us to run and produce material for phase 1 clinical trial. And then this is not secret, but we have a local company here in Suzhou that is supporting us to have the cell line development. So this is for antibodies. But when we talk about vaccines, it's the same. As I mentioned to you, the volume that the Ministry of Health acquired for vaccines and also medicine, it's huge. And usually the companies in Brazil doesn't have enough capabilities to produce in-house the amount of products that the Ministry of Health would like to. So and then we need to rely on CDMOs as well. So Butantan just launched our dengue vaccine. It's the first single-dose vaccines in the world. And we engage with a CDMO here in Suzhou to support us. So at local in Butantan, in the past 10 years, they invest a lot of money to build a facility. But this facility has only the capacity of 3 to 4 million doses per year. But the Ministry of Health wants 60 million doses. So, and then we need to rely on companies to support us in this manufacturing process. And here in Suzhou, there is one that Butantan is a partner, and then we build this relationship with them. So there is a lot of excitement about not only in Brazil, because this vaccine is people are waiting for this vaccine for a long time, but also to build this relationship. So we start with monoclonal antibodies, but now vaccines and more things will come. So engaging with companies such as CDMO to fill the gaps that we have in our innovation ecosystem is a key aspect. Thank you. So if both would like to comment.
I worked on this study.
Yeah, dengue. It was like a phase 3 clinical trial for more than 16 people in Brazil. It's a very exciting moment in Brazil, this vaccine.
Very well conducted.
Any other question?
Just an extension of her question. Do you also see the extension of this model into the PDP level, or is just limited to private B2B partnership?
Yeah, good question. So PDP requires local manufacture in Brazil. So for an example, Ganli has the insulin, they will transfer to a private company in Brazil and also a public company in Brazil, and they will split some of the tasks in terms of the development, so in terms of the manufacturing. So they can do, for an example, drug substance one, and another one can do like drug product. So, but what happened is you can design a PDP framework when you have local manufacturing. But in case the Ministry of Health would like for you to produce more than you are able to, you can also rely on CDMO. So what the Ministry of Health would like to avoid is that you can only go to the CDMO as a tech transfer, and you transfer the technology to the CDMO and not to the local company. So this is the issue. So if the company during this 10-year term can manufacture drug substance and drug product and have a commercial capability, that will be enough. But I think during this term of 10 years, the company decide to even increase the capacity locally, or also develop partnerships with local companies and external companies to support them. But yeah, so good question. And it is all about the market, right? So it should be affordable drugs and medicines, but to be affordable, we know that the Ministry of Health asks for affordable price, but in charge of high volume. So the companies earn more in the volume than to the local. So this is a balance that we have. But yeah, so we can, the main purpose is to produce locally. But if the Ministry of Health would like more, you can develop partners.
Yeah, thank you for a very insightful comments. So my question about innovation drug pricing in Brazil. In China, we have a national negotiation for innovation drug. So actually, the government have like their local policy to define the value proposition for innovation. So for Brazil, a very big market, but for innovation drug, how to price them? Can government reimbursement can support this kind of innovation in Brazil? That's the question.
Yeah, I will start, but feel free to complement. So there's two aspects. So for the innovation drug, so you need to do the market authorization first. So, and this is like struggling for the regulatory agency to see the aspects of this innovation drug. So Anvisa is designing a policy and a committee to expedite evaluation of innovative drugs for this new directorship of Anvisa. So they are doing that. But something which is very important is that when the medicine is incorporated to the Ministry of Health to be delivered for free to the population, the Ministry of Health needs to buy for the company as a cost-effective price. So the course is you apply to the regulatory agency as a market authorization. You have 90 days after the approval of the medicine for a chamber of Anvisa to regulate the price, and then they will give the maximum and the minimum. So this is for all medicine, but medicine that has an interest to be incorporated to the Ministry of Health and the Health Unified System to buy as a huge volume with a low price, there must be a cost-effective analysis. So there is a chamber in Brazil, the name is Conitec, that take the price of the medicine and project how cost-effective will be for us to have, for example, cell therapy, a gene therapy, a CRISPR drug, or siRNA drug, like a very innovative drug. So what this price of the drug should be, so they will read all the clinical trials, efficacy, what is the percentage of the efficacy, so what is the population that has been tested in the clinical trial. So they will design this study and this data in real world in Brazil, and they will see the population in Brazil. They will select this population, and they will put in the balancing. So what is the current treatment for this population? So what is the chance of the disease to come back again for this patient? So what is the burden of the hospital to treat these patients? So they will put that on the balance, and they will calculate the price of this new drug, how this should be. Usually, it's very low compared to what you are going, for example, in U.S. market and European market. But it's a price where if the Ministry of Health decides to incorporate this medicine, they will pay you this price, but for the whole people which is eligible for that population. So it's not only 1 or 10 or 1,000 doses. It's for everybody that needs that drug. But it should be this analysis of cost-effective analysis. And then they open for consultation to the public. So people like associations for this disease and people that has the disease. So how do you see this incorporation of this vaccine? So, and then like the population has the chance to also vote for the importance of this new drug for coming to the public health system.
Also, another question about the localization. Some drug produced in Brazil locally, but some drug imported from like Ganli from China. So, and the differences for pricing for localizing drug and import drug.
No question. No difference. What they would do is like they will need some bridging studies as well. So sometimes because you change the manufacturing site, but there shouldn't be no changes. Like you keep the manufacturing process as is for you to take advantage of all the clinical trial for the company that is doing and all the manufacturing process. But there is no changes in terms of like importation and localization.
I think you have covered most of the things. Just a couple of things to add, like you need to see whether your drug is first in class or not. If it is first in class, it may have a different equation, and then you need see Brazil or any other authority in Latin America doesn't compromise on the three things. One is CMC, safety, and efficacy. This you need to comply, and then it comes all to different partnership programs, what you do B2B or B2G or whatever. So all these things are, and couple of things, whether the new drug which you are talking about is a life-saving drug or is a normal drug. Then again the parameters will change. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm representing physician and also global CRO. So I have a question for Ms. Lisa. I want to bring more CAR T and gene therapy studies from international sponsors to Brazil. So my question is, what is the difference between the sponsor that can import into Brazil the product, or is it better to collaborate with somebody locally in Brazil to manufacture the CAR T and the gene therapy logistically?
Okay, thanks for the question. In terms of importing the CAR T, Anvisa has special flows for this kind of product in terms of not having delays on customs, especially due to the temperature and the urgency. We know that it's a specific treatment for a specific patient. So the good thing is that we do have a special channel for customs clearance and deliver to the patients. By the other side, of course, we can have local CDMOs producing as well, but I think you need to evaluate the cost of the production. So I would say that normally we are exporting the blood samples from the patient from Brazil to the US or Asia Pacific or Europe and then bringing back. So the model that I see right now is a tech transfer as well for the companies to produce locally, but they are still need to rely on the global productions to bring the product, which makes sense because the importation timelines are very short right now, which is a good news for sure and for patients. Thank you.
So thank you. We close the session. So please a round of applause to the people here. Thank you.
更多内容请持续关注异想线上。See you next time.